get it.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker. I appreciate each every single one of you guys for tuning in on this Friday. Joining me now is a very special guest. He's a man that holds a 15-1 record, 10 KOs. He goes by the nickname Sweet Tea. That's Tristan Kalkreuth. Tristan, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Having me up.
Absolutely, man. Well, first things first, I know we're a little bit removed from your most recent fight, though, but walk us through this now. You probably had time to go watch it, break it down, look at the highs, lows from that fight. Now that you've been a few weeks removed from that fight, what's your thoughts on that performance against Felix Ferreira?
That was probably about 40% of me.
Okay.
I'm happy that I got the win. I got
Mhm.
off the ring rust,
Right.
coming from a 10-month layoff of, the just dealing with the being re-signed and just getting married.
Right.
And it was just a lot during a lot of things I had to persevere through that camp.
Mhm.
The one thing is I had a slight injury,
Okay.
so I didn't even think I was probably going to fight. Um, and then the day before, the night before my fight, I had got strep throat. So
Really?
I was up all morning coughing and
Mm.
things like that. But I loved every bit of it because it's just preparing me for what's to come in the future.
Right.
I feel like I did a decent. That wasn't the full 100% of me. I'm
Mhm.
very athletic. I'm pretty quick on my feet. But with a tough veteran, a former champion, someone who fought Dimitri Bivol,
Mhm.
and who was just coming off of, like, 2 weeks prior, was just coming off a knockout victory.
Right.
That gave me confidence because I know if I could go in there and win in a unanimous decision at a 40% Tristan, I can't imagine what I would do at 100%.
I didn't even know all the stuff you just talked about. Just from the outside looking in, though, we knew the fact that this was an opponent that obviously everything kind of came together the last few days before the fight happened. That in of itself is obviously difficult for any fighter. And so
Mhm.
walk us through that time. Now, obviously, now you can talk about the fact that you had strep throat, you had all these different things going on. Just that week leading up to the fight, when you were, 7, 8 days out and you had no idea who you were fighting, things changed, all this stuff is going on. How, as a fighter, do you adapt to those situations?
I've been in similar situations before. And it's for me, it's just about, most importantly, just focusing on the will of God. I
Hmm.
believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that He's exalted above all. He says that if you follow me and you're one of my sheep, that I give you eternal life. I'm the Alpha and Omega. So that's who I put my faith in. Um, and I just followed Him. And I remember I was like so I went to the doctor to check out where I was being injured at.
Right.
And because it was swelling, and I was like, man, and they said that I was clear, and I was like, okay, like, let's do it. And then next, the day before um I go fly out, I wake up and I'm next to my wife, and I'm like, man, like, why's my throat feel like that? And I was like, when usually when something happens, I'm kind of like, oh, it'll pass. But then
Right.
it was day and day. The day before, I bought cough drops. I bought the stuff that you spray in your throat,
Yeah.
you know. And then on top of that, my coach wasn't there my last fight,
Hmm.
and I have totally understandable. We're good right now. We're still pursuing the dream and the goal. He had to attend a funeral, so
Okay.
I definitely understand that. It was a close friend to him.
Hmm.
But the overall goal is just persevering. And for me, I give it 100% when I'm training.
Okay.
Um, but just with everything combined, I was happy that I was able to go there and gain some fans.
Right. Now, I know obviously we don't like to get into hypotheticals and stuff like that, but let's say things went a little bit more smooth, a little bit more stable, let's say that week leading into the fight.
Mhm.
What's the difference in the results? What happens? Obviously, you win by unanimous decision, but what's the results you think happens if we get, maybe not even 100%? I don't think you guys are ever 100% going to a fight. But let's say 80% of yourself in
Mhm.
that fight. What type of Tristan do we see in that performance then?
You would see a tea party.
All right.
You will see a tea party. I believe in much respect to my opponent.
Right.
I think he's also a believer in faith.
Mhm.
But I believe that there would have been a stoppage.
All right. Well, Tristan, I want people to get to know your story a little bit better. And I think the best way to start that off is that something that I found about you was that I knew you as a boxer and all that. When I went to your IG page, you're a strong believer. You already talked about that in this interview already. And I really
Mhm.
want to get into that about you because not only are you a believer, but you obviously are someone that walks the walk. You talk the talk. And I love that about you. And so I want to get into that. What's led you to
Absolutely.
that? Have you always been a strong believer? Has it something that's developed in your later years or most recent
Mhm.
years? Or how did this come to be?
No, I wasn't always a strong believer. My family, they were previous disciples, or they still are disciples.
Okay.
So what happened was when I became like old enough, like around 12, my parents, or probably early before like 10, my parents had separated from the church that we were at. We go to this church called International Churches of Christ, which is a non-denominational church. We have churches in Russia and all over the world.
Okay.
Population over 30,000, we have a church there. Um, so they end up separating from church. So I kind of grew up with like, okay, there is a God, but not really having a relationship with him.
Right.
Which, I just kind of just been boxing. I've been dedicated to boxing my whole life, and boxing is a lonely sport. Later on, I ended up getting into a relationship.
Mhm.
Dealing with boxing being a lonely sport, I was always kind of like drawn to relationships and things like that, which eventually led me to moving to Vegas. And I was engaged previously.
Okay.
And then what happened was, there was separation. And then I just got tired of being alone. I remember that there was a night where I was hitting the ground. Mom was looking at me, and I could just remember the look on my mom's face. She just didn't know what to do. And I remember that I read the scripture about when Jesus was the night before Jesus was about to um, become, well, he was about to get crucified, that he was same situation on the ground,
Mhm.
pleading with God, if this isn't your will, take this cup from me.
Right.
And he's sweating blood. And I was sitting here. Actually, I was going through studies. I went to a church, Valley Christian. They got me through the studies again, and I got to that verse, and I just remember I just like thinking like I'm sitting here dealing with a relationship, and I was like, this man is in the same situation, emotions that he's about to be killed the next day, and I was like, after that, I was like, I gotta give my life to Christ, and then I did that, became I repented, got baptized,
Mhm.
and then I met my wife there at the church.
And so, what time frame was this for yourself then?
Say that again.
What time frame was this? Like, what age were you when this
This
all happened?
I'm 23 now, so this is probably when I was 21. So
All
I've
right.
been I just had turned 21. I've been a disciple for about 2 years and a half.
All right, I love that, man. One of the cool things about your Instagram is that you've been able to baptize some guys, even some fellow guests that's been on the show like Troy Isley before.
Mhm.
That's one of the greatest things about being a believer, man. Being able to go spread the word and create more fellow disciples, make more people that get to know Jesus and follow Jesus, and that's what you've been a part of. Can you take us to that? Like that's something that I know so many believers have not experienced before, and maybe stepping outside your comfort zone. You've already done that in just the past couple of years. How did that opportunity come to be, and what led you to start taking that step of faith?
Oh man, great questions, great questions. Just really just purpose.
Mhm.
Jesus' command after he resurrected, which is the whole turning point to the gospel. If Jesus died and he stayed dead, then
Yep.
everything that was prophesied would just been false. And so Jesus resurrected, and he tells his disciples, he says, "Go forth and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit."
Yep.
And I looked at that and I said, forget boxing, forget my life. Like this is my mission, this is my purpose. And I know if I could love others as Christ loved me, like Paul says, that is the fulfillment of the law, right? Of the commandments. And so I took that and I was like, you know, yeah, my goal is to become a champion, but
Right.
and to win a crown. But more importantly, I want to win an eternal crown that will last forever and never perish.
Right.
And above that is, yeah, I want to become a world champion so that I could get to where I need to be and build a legacy for myself. But more importantly, most of all, is I want to share the word of God. I want to give God glory. And by doing that, I ran into Troy, which is a brother in Christ.
Mhm.
He came to me and saw the things I was doing on Instagram. He was like, "Hey, bro, like, what is that?" He didn't understand at the time, but he was
Right.
like, "Hey, what is that thing that you're doing? I want to do that. I want to get baptized." And I'm like, "Okay, Troy, this isn't like a type of thing that people just do, but you know what? Let's go. Let's get into some of the studies." And I
Right.
think within 2 weeks, he had the heart of fire for God, and he repented. He got baptized. I know another brother named Braden, and I
Mhm.
just got like it's a small ministry that I kind of started. It's called Slam,
Okay.
and it's kind of like the proper word is baptism, but you're
Yeah.
slamming people in the water. It's just
Yeah,
a
definitely.
fun way, and it stands for Sports Leadership Athletic Ministry,
Mhm.
and I do that with the team I'm at. I do that with the people who that go to my church, people who see me, And it's just a way for athletes to relate to each other in these physical type of combat sports, or
Mhm.
just working out, and just to kind of relate, and the whole goal is to get closer to Christ.
I love that, man. I want to add on to that other opponent you just talked about. And one of those things is that, okay, you're going to be in the sport where it's like obviously regards as a lonely sport. You talk about boxing, and it's so easy to get wrapped up in so many outward circumstances, whether that be the fame, that be the attention, yet being a sport where obviously you get all the glory when you win. You get obviously all the hate if you lose as well. But it's so easy to fall into the temptation of, pride, glorifying yourself, so on and so forth. And you're at a point now where obviously you have to learn how to make sure that you still give God the glory at all times. And it obviously maybe sounds easier on paper, just saying it out loud, but how have you actually learned to live that portion out?
Great question. So the good thing about me is I lived a life that, as a non-disciple in boxing, and now I live the life that I am a disciple in
Right.
boxing. So and so I know kind of like when I became a disciple, what life that I need to turn away from.
Mhm.
And to answer the question, it's just really, for me, is I knowing that boxing is an explicit sport, right? It's
Right.
goresome and things like that. And I know that for me as a Christian, as a believer in Jesus, the more explicit I go to, the more events I go to, that, or the more explicit things become, the
Right.
more intentional I have to be with my purpose. Because if not, then I'm just going to be consumed by where I'm at, right? And we know that bad company corrupts good character.
Yep.
So, so I'm when I'm there, and when I walk out the ring, everyone knows that, I'm wearing the thorns on my head, representing Christ,
Mhm.
right? Everyone knows that I walk out and with a headband that says that Jesus Christ is King. Like,
Mhm.
everyone knows what I'm representing, because there's a scripture that says that whatever you do or say, do it as you're representing the Lord. And the scripture says we're ambassadors of Christ. So everything I do represents God. If it wasn't for that purpose, if I wasn't for Christ, I probably wouldn't be boxing, to be honest, because that's my sole purpose.
Mhm.
um that's the sole purpose I have. The fire in me is to, seek the lost. And not that I'm perfect, we're all
Right.
flawed people, but we know that Jesus Christ is perfect, and through him everything else is made perfect. So that's my thing, is I know every time I get to these events, because I'm not in these events every day,
Yeah.
but every time I go to these events, every time I go to gyms, or every time I go to a boxing event, I make sure that I'm even more intentional,
Mm.
because I want to be there, and I want to find a way to connect. And it happened. There's people that times I was at events just enjoying, and I was with my wife and my team, my family, and someone came up to me and was like, man, like, I don't want to put this information, but he's like, I'm struggling with this and that. And it's like, I was like, bro, like, I appreciate you coming to me. Let's talk about it more. I'll give you my number, and let me see if I get you connected to a church, and then get you around some brothers that could
Mhm.
help you with this problem. And so I feel like wherever the fire's at, that's where I need to be.
That's also a tough thing because so many people that look at things, obviously there's different aspects, I'd say. When you talk about the church, obviously people that for believers that get to know God and obviously strengthen their faith. But then there's also people that need to go out into the world, the secular world, the world that's not following Jesus. And that job can be considered obviously quite difficult because you're going to be out of your comfort zone. You're always going to be the minority in those situations. And it's like you said, it's so easy to be corrupted by the world. You're going into a sinful world where we are still sinful. Obviously, it's people that don't know Jesus, they're not walking the walk. How have you managed when you go into these situations to say, you know what? Like you said, I want to go above and beyond. I want to make sure I'm the light in the darkness.
Um, to me, I've seen boxing, and I've seen some of the people that say that, hey, like, and like I said, we're not all perfect, but they'll say, hey, like, Jesus Christ is King, and you hear it so many times. But
Hmm.
then I look, and then I see him the next fight, man, f you, this and that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like, I'm not trying to say and be judgmental, but I definitely, for me, I wouldn't want to live a life of hypocrisy. If I make a statement, I make a claim, and I say that Jesus is Lord, I want to show that through my boxing, my life,
Hmm.
and my career. And that's how I kind of distinguish myself. Not that I'm superior than anyone else. It's just my personal belief, and I respect anybody else's belief. But that's how I kind of distinguish myself. As I say, I want to be the first world champion to truly give Christ glory in and outside the ring.
I love that, man. So one of the aspects I want to ask about is obviously this is a long future ahead, but you're gonna be boxing, you got a long future. But obviously, I kind of believe that you probably have outside aspirations of boxing. You've already talked about your main purpose is following Jesus. So just curious by that, do you have goals long term? I'm sure God will lead you in the right way, but when you're done with boxing, or maybe as you continue to grow in boxing, do you have aspirations that you want to pursue in your faith and walk with Jesus?
Absolutely. Are you speaking more like outside revenues and things like that, or like
Sure, like even
investment?
yeah, let's say like boxing out of the question when you're done when you're
Mhm,
tired from boxing. Is there a
mhm, mhm.
passion, whether it be ministry, church wise, something like that? Like, do you have
Oh,
a calling that you want to follow?
absolutely. I want to expand the slam
Okay.
ministry. I want to be a motivational speaker. I have a detailing business. I want to get more out there, and I want to basically maybe get into things that where I could sit back and I could just kind of be able to be accessible to reach out and to help the community, to help the childrens that didn't grow up with a strong father figure, to help
Mm,
um, children that have broken homes, that are looking for hope, that are looking for a second chance, that are looking for something to be in life. And I say, hey, all these things are good, but what helped me was Christ. That is my purpose. That's my mission. I can't let people get confused because I'm a boxer. That's my purpose. No,
right.
that's my trait. My purpose
Hmm.
is to serve the Lord and to give Him glory, and it mix and mingles together. And that's what I want to share with other people, and share with people who are down, who don't have no one to talk to, who are going through relationship problems, who are going through things with addiction. Um, just overall, whatever God gives to me, I give to others, and that's just what I try to promote, and that's what I try to preach.
One last thing I want to get into is kind of will transition us back into your career in boxing wise, but
Mhm.
there's going to be ups and downs in life. You talked about you've gone through trials and tribulations. That's going to be a guarantee. Just because you put your faith and trust in Jesus doesn't mean
Mhm.
life's going to be all sunshine and rainbows and all those type of things. You're going to have the trials and tribulations, but when
Mhm.
those things hit, the question is, are you going to pursue God? Are you going to stay on the right path and follow Him and use His power and strength to get through those times? Or are
Mhm.
you going to turn around and go down the ways of the enemy? And for you,
Mhm.
we've seen what happens. You talk about that point that was a dark moment in your life. You could have gone either way. You know which way you end up choosing there. How have you learned to rely on God in those? Maybe that's the most extreme version, but even the small ups and downs, the flu situation, those type of
Mhm.
situations. How do you trust in God even when there's trials and tribulations?
No, great question. So the thing about me is I've been through a lot.
Right.
Like, as a young professional, boxer, I already been through a lot. My first couple years of boxing, I threw out my shoulder in
Mm,
a fight, which a lot of people thought I won. I thought that I was at least a draw because I feel like my opponent wasn't doing enough to even score, and I was fighting with one arm.
mm,
So I said that's a good blemish, but I threw on my shoulder. Um, while I wasn't pursuing Christ, right? And then I later on made a comeback, and I ended up suffering an injury to my jaw
mm,
and sparring, and I had to take another layoff, and really just that was pretty much me doing what I wanted to do, and trying to figure things out the way I wanted to do it. So I got put in a position where my back is turned to wall. It's on the wall, and I'm in
mm,
the position like I have no other option but to say that Jesus Christ is the truth, because
mhm,
I was pursuing a relationship that wasn't pleasing. I was pursuing a lifestyle that wasn't pleasing. I was pursuing all these things that, at the end of the day, led to emptiness. And
right.
then I started reading more in the Word, and I just found out that like at the end of the day, nothing matters, because at the
Mhm,
end of the day, everything's going to be burned to the ground, and Jesus Christ is going to be standing before us all. And
yep,
I was just like, knowing that, I'm like, man, like going through all this perseverance, when I really became closer to Christ, my boxing went like this,
mm,
and it gave me, because it gave me there's a scripture that says a soldier divorces himself from the distractions of the world, and he's out to serve and please the anointed one, which is Jesus Christ, right?
right.
And when I came closer to God, it gave me just tunnel vision. It gave me a focus. It really gave me a plan to plan ahead, and to really see, okay, this is where, based on the word and based on these things, this is where I want my life to be.
Right.
So so even then, as a disciple, I went through some things, some challenges, but just me, it's like once you know the truth, like it's hard to turn back.
Amen.
It's just hard to turn back from it. So that's just been my journey. That's been my faith, and it really gave me a purpose, something to aim in, as being a boxer. It made me stronger. It made me more focused, more determined, and it made me sharpen my tools, and it made me more persistent on the goal I need to go in boxing.
I love that, man. Well, let's get into your boxing career now. And you obviously have had a long storied career. You were a great amateur. You had a great run there. So I want to go all the way back, though. Was boxing the main sport you've always wanted to pursue? Did it kind of come on later in life, or what got you into boxing?
Good question. It came at a early age. I was very physical. There's this altercation I got into with a kid. He was joking with me, and I just told him, "Hey, Brandon, like you do that again, I'm gonna cut your head off." Right? And I
Okay.
was joking, but in school they like the red alerts is like come on, they're like, "Hey, you can't be joking like that." So my pops saw that I was pretty aggressive. He was like, "Man, we need to put you in a sport where you can release this energy, right?" And
Mhm.
I think I did soccer, and I had an option to do karate or so. And I was like, I just like boxing. It seems technical. It seems clean and precise. I
Right.
think that's what I want to do. And I started that when I was 10 years
Okay.
old, and I just stayed consistent since then. And I went on to become a national champion at 138.
Yep.
I went on to become another champion at 152. Then I won again at 152, and I went to Team USA and final continentals and things like that. Then I came back and I placed second at 178, and then I turned pro.
In all those different times, when do you feel like it clicked for yourself that you realize, you know what, this is my God's calling for myself. This is something that I can actually have a pursue in. This is my career. Like I can be a pro boxer, make money like for this. When did that click for yourself?
I don't know. I just never thought I couldn't.
Okay. All right.
I never thought I couldn't. I never thought I couldn't do it. And I knew I'm persistent. I know when I get into it, I know I'm gonna go all the way.
Okay.
And so when I got into it, even it's crazy. Even as an amateur, I was like, I know I'm gonna get signed to Golden Boy. And it wasn't like this thing where I'm like, I'm in the gym every day. We're gonna get it every single day. I was calm. I was poised,
Okay.
like kind of like a silent killer. And I went in gym and day. My pops went through hell and back to get me into that position, but I just knew, just as I know I'm gonna become a world champion. I just know, there's no reason for me to be overly anxious about it, or any under anxious about it, right? But it's just I'm calm and poised. I'm enjoying my fruits of my labor, and I'm gonna get into every step I need to get to that level.
Your dad has a large role in your life. I know you've alluded to him many times throughout this interview already. How big has he been in your role just as a person and as a boxer?
Um, Man, and he's really guided my whole boxing career. He's really guided my whole boxing career. He's more of like kind of like a person that's more of an advisor. Still coach. He still
Hmm.
coaches me whenever my main coach Bomac isn't there. He coaches me. He trains me. But I mean, there's times where I was going to lose. I was about to lose my dad. But we were about to lose our relationship. There's times that I cussed him out. There's times that I don't think we ever got physical. But I mean, it's just it was close, and it's just times got ugly, and that's what I say that that's what whenever I came to Christ, that's really what gave me a foundation to know how to love, to know how to tolerate,
Mm.
and plus on top of that, two alpha males, so it's
Right.
gonna, so but it was definitely it was definitely a grind. It was definitely something that you have to learn how to be comfortable while being uncomfortable, and it was definitely perseverance. We've been through a lot and a lot. So and I gave my pops a hard time.
All right, man. So you become a pro then in 2019. You're 17 years old. You signed a Golden Boy.
Mm.
Was that surreal for yourself? I know you said you always kind of dreamed of that, expected that to happen in the future. But did you expect to be able to sign to a professional company like Golden Boy at just 17 years old?
It's no, I would say is it expectation. It was somewhat like I wouldn't say it was an expectation
Hmm.
because it was more like I haven't made it there. I haven't arrived. Like you
Okay.
know what I'm saying. So it was more like it was a dream, but it was a dream that I knew was going to happen. But if I signed with a different promoter, then I would have still been in come to dream. So that's why I would say it was like an expectation to
Sure.
Golden Boy specifically, but I knew I was going to get signed.
Okay.
But I was leaning more towards Golden Boy. But when I did get signed with Golden Boy, I remember when my manager. Uh, went to Lester Bedford. My manager Lester Bedford went to Oscar and he showed him the video. And I remember Oscar looking at it. Oscar starts shadowboxing. It was like, okay. Next thing you know, like a day or two later, I have an offer. I had an offer from Matchroom. I had an offer from PBC, but I had an offer from Golden Boy, and with them made the most sense. And when they signed me, I remember I think my parents, me and my family were going somewhere. It was just a very good moment to celebrate, and I was just like, it was still processing. Like to be honest, it's like the day I got married. Like I couldn't really process it. Like, oh, is this? I'm actually married. So it was the same way. I was like, man, am I actually signed with Golden Boy? And like I had like 500 followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day I fought my pro debut, the day I fought and I knocked him out and hit a backflip. I looked at my phone. It was like 1,000 people following. An hour later, 1,000, 2,000, and it just went up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a cool moment. It was definitely a cool moment, and it was like for me, it was just more like it's time to put in the work now.
Absolutely, man. So then you obviously have progressed to this point in time. So I want to ask you this question. You are 15-1, 10 KOs at this point in your life. If I were to ask you when you signed to Golden Boy that this is what's going to happen. You're going to be at the age of 23, 15-1 with 10 KOs. Has this
Mhm.
career gone as you had planned? Do you think you wanted to accomplish more at this point, less than this? Like, where do you feel like what do you feel? How do you feel about your career at this point in time?
If how it went now, probably not. I probably I had probably an unrealistic expectation.
Okay,
I probably would want to be world champion by now.
gotcha.
But I know that uh, as I learned is I could only see half of the film at one time, but I know that God sees the whole movie,
Right.
right? And I just gotta understand that there's a reason why I got injured. There's a reason why these things happen, and that's because God is forming me into the perfect sword that I ought to be to fit His will.
Mm,
And I went through all these trials and tribulations to number one as a boxer increase my IQ, to mature me as a man, and to be more purposeful in my craft and in my art. So it's when I look back, it's more like, is this what I wanted? No, like I probably wanted to take the easy road.
sure.
I wanted to have a couple fights and be 15-0.
Right.
A couple years later and already be pushed for a title. But no, this is what God planned it out. He allowed me to go through the pain and the suffering for me to be where I'm at now. I'm in a good position. I'm probably ranked, 30 or 25 in the WBC. So
Mhm.
I know that a couple more fights, I'm gonna be on my way, and people and everyone's gonna be welcome to the tea party.
One of those moments that you talk about, obviously, you have your loss to Demetrius Banks, and I want to ask about that because so many boxers obviously emphasize the O. You have to have the O. My biggest thing is if you learn from that O, it's gonna be okay, and you'll be able to bounce back from it. Obviously, to this point in time, you've done just that.
Mhm.
How about that loss though? When you look back on it, was that tough for you to handle? How'd you take in that loss?
It was. I mean, I knew I could have beat. I knew I was, I could beat the dude. I mean,
Right.
after the fight, he came to me. He was like, "Bro, like, I was gonna go out. If you wouldn't have thrown at your shoulder." I was like, "Yeah, like I know that, you know." But for me, it was a blemish that I actually appreciate because even during that fight, I gained a lot more fans because everyone saw me that I have heart, I have determined. I'm not here for the cameras. I'm not here for the social media. I'm not here to get the check and bounce. I'm here to fight. I'm here for the legacy, and
Mm,
that's what I showed. That it doesn't matter. Like you're gonna have to take my head off first if you're gonna want me to quit. I'll die by my shield, and that's what I showed in the ring. Is I wasn't gonna go down even if my arm was out of socket. Um, and another thing I say is I think Floyd Mayweather kind of messed up the view of boxing,
yeah.
because until that generation happened, before it was the Marvelous Hagglers, it was the Tommy Hearns. Fighters would get knocked out and come back and be a world champion, and people would be praising that fighter,
Yep.
you know. And that's the era that I kind of see that era coming back to boxing now. You have
Mhm.
fighters, especially in the heavyweight division, and like Deontay Wilder. They still want to see him fight, and much respect to him and other fighters. Um, so I can see boxing slowly to coming back to that era. But like I
Mhm.
said, that doesn't define who I am
Right.
because either way is like um, people saw what I did in the ring. A lot of people thought I won, and at the end of the day, it's just a record. There's a lot of
Mhm.
fighters that don't have a good record that could beat majority of these champions today. So, but they just don't ever get the opportunity or chance because of their record,
Right.
you know. And I don't think that's how a fighter should be judged. I think a fighter should be judged by his overall attributes, not of his last fight, because at times we had bad fights, not, you know, and that's just how I think, you know, because I can't tell everybody to be quiet. Everyone has opinion. Everyone has a freedom to share, you know. But
Yeah.
if they was to judge somebody, I would say judge them off of that, you know, the attributes, what they can do, what they have seen, not based off the last fight or based off the record. Um, because if because to me, basing boxing being based off of someone's record is going to make the sport less popular. Because
Agreed.
if you look at UFC, they lost. Like Alex Pereira just lost his fight. He's going to be back again. You
Yep.
know, other fighters lost their fight. They continue to they continue. Sean, the dude that wears the colorful afro, you know, he lost.
O'Malley. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean O'Malley. Much
Yep.
respect to all those fighters. He lost his last fight. They're going to be back.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, who cares if we have a pretty record? It's about legacy. You know, it's about setting up something for our family. They're doing fans that have that idea do us a disservice because they prevent us from putting food and on the plate for our family because of a record. But
Right.
when we know that we're still entertaining, we can still knock people out. You know, we can still fight, and we can still build legacy.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, it's a fight, and the art of war isn't always pretty.
Right.
So that's just my message.
I love that, man. Now, another thing, I know you touched up on it very briefly when we're going into their fight in the very beginning, but I want to talk about Bomac a little bit because I know when you go through Twitter, a lot of people, or X should say, a lot of people are discussing that you left the camp, you guys are on bad terms, so on and so forth. And you kind of brought that up that you guys are not on bad terms. So I want to just give you kind of the chance to ask this question. But when you talk about Bomac, where's you guys' relationship at today, and where do you kind of stand with him?
Oh, Bomac is good. I say Bomac is like he's like a boxing figure for me, another father figure.
Hmm.
I say more boxing related. The only thing that happened was, you know, I had a fight set and date. He had a very close friend pass away unnoticeably, and that he had to attend a funeral that Friday, so he's going through emotional.
Right.
I know that if for me, if I did something wrong, I would hope that you have grace for me. So how could I live this life and not have grace for my coach?
Yeah.
And now I ain't gonna lie, it'd been a different situation if a tragic accident happened and I didn't end up winning. Now then I'd be like, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, I've been through that with Ronnie Shields. There was
Yeah.
a fight that he wasn't there at my fight, and the way that happened, it happened differently. I'm not here to bad name or anything, but I'm just
Sure.
naming factual. The night I threw out my shoulder, he wasn't there. Don't never still to this day don't know the reason of that, but it helped prepped me for this fight. And you know, on top of that, Ronnie was there to assist in the corner. so so it's a funny thing. But me and Bomac were good. I was just training with him and the team yesterday.
Okay.
We're working on our art. We're working on the things that were good, and we're fixing the things that were bad. And we're pursuing the next fight. I think my next fight should be August 2nd.
All right.
And it's going to be another 10 rounder. It should be a good fight. And but as far as me and Bo, we're good, and we still have the same goal and same vision. It was just that he lost a close friend, and he couldn't attend the fight because he was emotional. And at the
Okay.
same time, I respect it because, like, you know, sometimes I believe that sometimes you go to war, you have to leave some people behind. And at the time, my coach, he just wasn't mentally there enough, and that's just where he had to be. No disrespect or nothing like that, but he gave me the tools, he gave me the preparation that I need to do. And I went out there, I performed, and I did my thing. We came back and we celebrated. So our relationship is still good. We're still it's still rock solid, and we're still pursuing our goal and our dream.
All right. Well, you just talked about your future plans. You could possibly be getting back to the ring in now a couple of months. So I want to ask you this because you've now signed a deal. You have your extension with Golden Boy in line now. And when you talk about, let's say, the next, 6, 12, or 12 months, let's say 12 to 18 months for yourself, what do you see yourself accomplishing? Whether that be in regards to fights, that be where you're going to be standing as a world champion, possibly a contender, whatever it might be. Where do you see yourself in 12 to 18 months?
Oh, I see myself, people talking about who Sweet Tea is. Like I said before, I feel like I'm the youngest, sharpest. I feel like I hit the hardest. I'm the quickest. Cruiserweight ranked in the division right now. I'm 23.
Hmm.
You know, the cruiserweight division. There's more older fighters in there,
Right.
and I feel like this is the cruiserweight division is bleeding with my name on it, and I feel like as long as I stay focused and I go to my coaches about what's the next move, what are we gonna do this fight, I'm gonna get there sooner than later to a world title shot, and I know that the fans will want to see it too.
So you could be returning in the ring in August. How many fights do you see you possibly fighting this year? Could we see August another time in the winter time, or how many fights do we see you possibly getting into in 2025?
2025, I say I probably could get two good more fights in.
All
Probably
right.
two good more fights in. Because there are 10 rounders. I'm
Hmm.
gonna need time to be with my family,
Yeah.
and I have a child on the way. My wife is
Okay.
pregnant now, so
Congratulations.
thank you. I think that's the first time the whole world is knowing my wife
All
is
right.
pregnant.
Congratulations there. Breaking news.
Breaking news, yeah. So at the end of the day, is I'm just getting more responsibility, and I think that responsibility is what makes a man.
Right.
And I feel like everything is in God's will. The good and bad times. I know I could trust in God, and I could continue to stay dedicated to my craft.
All right, so this is a question that I'm curious about. Your last fight, you obviously fought at heavyweight, hypothetically, because all the situation that happened there. We know you are working your way up at cruiserweight, so we're going to be staying for the moment. Let's say 5, maybe 7 years when you're 30, whatever it is. Is heavyweight ever in your aspirations? Would you ever consider permanently moving up to heavyweight?
Absolutely, I feel like if uh, there's a match out there
Okay.
that people want to see, and I'm champion at cruiserweight at the time, and the money's right, and all the things in the contract are right. I feel like why not? Let's go for it. I fought a heavyweight before. I
Right.
brought my power with me. I stopped in the second round in a spectacular knockout. So it's no doubt that I could be successful at the heavyweight division. It's just about a matter of time.
Okay. So for the foreseeable future, then you're going to work your way up to cruiserweight, try to become world champion there, and if an opportunity presents itself, then one day maybe move to heavyweight.
Absolutely. Either that or just by nature. I'm
Right.
23 and I'll probably walk around 220.
Okay.
Right now I'm not. I'm 208 right now. I'm staying close to my fight weight.
Okay.
But so it's only about a matter of time. But I just want to make sure that when I do go, I have the right nutritionist coach and I have all the things and all the tools that I need to go there, so that I won't be slow, sluggish. I still continue to have my speed, my feet, just as I fought when I was heavyweight, when I fought Santiago
Right.
years back.
Absolutely. Well, Tristan, I also have two questions before I let you go. One of which is you do go by the nickname Sweet Tea. I know you brought that up a couple different times. How did that nickname come to be?
So there's a coach that I used to go to the gym a while back, and I don't know. I think he saw me eating candy that day I came to the jail,
All right.
and he was like, "Man, your name should be Sweet Tea." And I was like, like I didn't know how I felt about that. But then I was like, okay, like there's something to put thought in. And then what happened was I was training with Rodney Shields at the time. I had an opportunity to talk to Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker on the phone,
Okay.
and I was planning to meet him in person. And then on the way to my pro debut, he ended up passing.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, like I felt heart trouble because that's a guy that I used to watch and I love his defense. And I was
Right.
like, you know what? It's just like everything is kind of coming together. Like I think I should just go with Sweet Tea and to and memorial for Sweet
Mhm.
Pea to represent him. And the goal was just to go with that nickname for that fight in
Oh,
honor of
really?
Sweet Pea. But then when I came out, everyone was like, Sweet Tea, Sweet Tea. So I was like, oh, I guess it's my name now.
I love that story, man. Well, Tristan, I got one final question for you. It's the question I like wrapping up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. We already got into this briefly though a little bit ago, but when that day does come, you step away from boxing, your career's over. Do you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
Man, I wanna be remembered as a crusader for Christ, a
Mm.
man that truly, lived a life that's pleasing for God, and a man that wasn't harmful or the one that didn't put no one down. But I want to be known as a man that that didn't have that had a hard career at first, but
Mhm.
that found God, and God, through God, made a successful career. And also I want to be known for my athleticism, the backflip. I want to be known for
Yep.
the knockouts. I want to be known as one of the best fighters to ever fight in cruiserweight.
I love that, Tristan. Well, Tristan, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today. It was a blessing having you on here, man. I can't wait to see what God's got in store for you next.
All right, thank you, man. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. You always welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless.
I appreciate everyone for tuning into the interview. I'll have that clipped up, edited out, and then posted on my YouTube channel very shortly. I'm going to go on a quick break, and then we'll get right into the rest of the show. I'll see you guys shortly. going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker. On this portion of the show now, what we're going to be getting into is a preview of the Khelif Plant Jamal Charlo fight card going down tomorrow night, as well as what I'm going to kick off this portion of the show off with will be a discussion of pretty much the only breaking news that's come out over the duration since my last show last night. So let's get right into it. That news portion, Imane Khelif rule has now been put in state by the World Boxing Commission. Let me put out the exact headlines here. World Boxing has announced its executive board has decided that it will introduce mandatory sex testing for all boxers that wish to participate in its competitions. If we go back in time to the Olympics, which is now, I guess, almost already a year ago, there was massive controversy surrounding Imane. And at this point in time, now it's taken quite some time, they've now put in place the rule that's going to make sure there's mandatory sex testing being put in place. And in my opinion, that's exactly what needs to happen. Whatever the situation is regarding her, it is what it is. We can't go back in time. Obviously, some people still want those things, those wins to be vacated and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if that's going to be something possible to do with it being underneath the Olympic board. What I would like to see going forward is that there should not be transgender athletes participating in boxing. In my opinion, any sports, but specifically in combat sports. I think it's pretty obvious. When you talk about the extent of what the effects are from PEDs that we just discussed yesterday with Hamid Munguia, you're going to take these other aspects that are going to be obviously performance boosters, and it's not going to be something that we should tolerate. It's too dangerous of a sport at the get-go to be involving this type of controversy. So I think getting ahead of it right now, putting this rule in place is what has to be put in place. I don't think there's much debate here, and I think anybody that truly cares about the athletes fighting, this is what needs to happen. I know people will say, okay, well, she is not the most powerful person, so on and so forth. Well, wait until there is somebody that is more powerful. Wait till there are more examples of that situation. The point is, why not just get away with those situations? Why not just remove the controversy now and put women and men in the right places that they're supposed to be in? I think that's the right decision to make. I think it should be done in all sports, but primarily, above all else, in combat sports. There is no room for those type of things to be happening. Any form of performance enhancements, whether that be through a biological type of change, whether that be gender change, whatever it is, or that be performance enhancements, that be PEDs, drugs, whatever it is, there should not be that tolerated in any form of combat sports. The sport in and of itself is far more dangerous than any other sport in the world. Having those other aspects added into it that could possibly alter the altercations of a fight and make it more dangerous for their people that they're fighting is not okay. There should be no place in any form of combat sports for that happening. And so by the World Boxing Commission getting that done with now, being put into place, it's the right move to happen. It had to be put in place. And I think that's in the safe place to go going forward. That's all I want to say about that in regards to the only news that came out over the past little while. At this portion of the show, let's transfer into a fight preview for tomorrow night's cards. If you already missed what's going to be happening tonight, we're 1 hour removed now from two different cards. I think there's actually two cards already going on right now. The Golden Boy card with the Beck versus Darius Fulgham. That card is going to be already going on right now. I think it's on DAZN. It's taking place in Las Vegas. Then you have the card going on in Mexico right now. Also DAZN card headlined by Khalil Ko and Galejos. That's going to be going on right now as well. So both those cards will be happening. The main card should be starting at 6:45 for the DAZN in Vegas with Darius Fulgham and Beck card. The other one should be starting off at 6 o'clock flat out there in Mexico. So those cards, if you guys want to hear my preview, my thoughts on those, go check out yesterday's show. But the one card I did not preview yesterday that we'll be getting into now is the Khelif Plant versus Resendiz card. Let's hop right into it. The main event for tomorrow night's card, Khelif Plant, Armando Resendiz for the WBA interim super middleweight title fight. This is going to be a fight that I think is going to go according to plan. When we talk about Khelif Plant, he had a great performance against Trevor McCumbee. Obviously, he got dropped. There were moments in that fight that obviously were interesting, but overall, the way he recovered very quickly, the way he performed in that fight, Khelif Plant did his thing in that last fight. In this fight, now this is going to be a tune-up fight. I believe we will see Khelif Plant win by either late stoppage or wide decision. For those who do not know the other opposition he's fighting, he's a Mexican contender, Armando Resendiz, who's 15-2 with 11 KOs. He is a good fighter. He's aggressive, high volume. He likes to fight in the close range fights. He also is a relentless pressure fighter, and he wants to pull off the massive upset. Remember, there is a reason that we have Khelif Plant headlining, Charlo being the co-main event. We all know that's the fight that people have been trying to hypothetically put together in boxing. If both guys come out victorious tomorrow night, we will have that fight likely being scheduled for later on this year or early 2026. That's why for both Thomas Lamana, who's fighting Jamal Charlo, and for Armando Resendiz, those guys have the opportunity to basically throw out all the plans, just as we saw Roy Romero do with Ron Garcia, Devin Haney, just as we saw many guys like Joseph Parker do to Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. These guys have a chance to throw out one of the big plans that we have set for later on this year. I think that Khelif Plant will take care of business on this fight. Caleb Plant always shows up to his fights. He always puts on a show. And I don't see Caleb Plant losing to Armando Resendiz. This should be a statement win for himself that will take care of business against, at least on his side of the business, for the Jamal Charlo fight. Let's head over to the Charlo fight. That will be the co-main event. This fight gets a little bit more interesting for me, in my opinion. Here is why. Caleb Plant has still been pretty active overall. Yes, he has not fought in 8 months, but still, he's been relatively active, we're going to be honest, from typical boxing standards. Whereas Jamal Charlo, he has not been active. And not only has he not been active, he's lived an unhealthy lifestyle outside of boxing for a little bit of time now. He is making his return, which I think is great for boxing. I love having the Charlo brothers back in boxing. But this is interesting. Thomas Lamana has been much, much more active. He just fought in March. He's fought multiple times over the duration that Charlo has been sitting out. That inactivity could prove to be problematic for Charlo. Now, if I'm going to predict someone that's going to win here, I still have Charlo being the victor in this fight. That's my prediction here. But let me say this. I'm not as confident here predicting this as I was for Caleb Plant. For Caleb Plant, I see pretty much, I don't want to say 100% is boxing, 95% chance that Caleb Plant comes up victorious tomorrow night. Whereas for Charlo, I'm a lot more skeptical about this fight. If we're going strictly by skill, power, and what we know he has the potential of doing, I'll have Charlo easily defeating Thomas Lamana. But what Jamal Charlo is going to show up? We just saw an example on the Times Square card where both Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia did not look good whatsoever in their returns after taking a year off of inactivity. Charlo's been off significantly longer than just a year. That is very questionable when we talk about this type of situations. When you have a guy in Thomas Lamana who is talented, he's been on a long win streak. He has a 39-5-1 record, 18 KOs in his life. This is a situation where inactivity could prove to be detrimental for Charlo. Obviously, Charlo's undefeated, former WBC middleweight champion. He's moved up to 168, so on and so forth. We know that Charlo's legit. We know that if the best version of Charlo shows up, he's winning the fight tomorrow. The question is the best version of Charlo going to show up tomorrow? He's going to have to answer that question. I will predict based on the fact that I believe Charlo is a better fighter than Lamana, so I will go with Charlo winning this fight. But don't be surprised. If there are issues with the inactivity and ring rust for Charlo, Thomas Lamana could shock the world tomorrow night and toss out the plans for Caleb Plant versus Charlo. Another fight on this card, which is my opinion, is the best fight on this entire card. If you were just going to tune in for one fight and you want to watch a darn good boxing fight, it is going to be this one. Yolani Hernandez versus Kyron Shut It Down Davis, a middleweight battle. This is the fight to watch. It might even be, let me think real quickly, make sure to say this before I put it out loud. It'll be the second best fight of the weekend, potentially even the best fight of the weekend. I think that Darius Fulgham versus Beck will be the best fight this weekend happening in a couple hours, but this has a chance to be the best fight of the weekend. Both of these guys are extremely talented. For those of you that do not know, Yolani Hernandez, 7-0, 7 KOs, Cuban prospect. This guy is a problem. He's a threat. He's powerful. He's tough, experienced. He is a good fighter overall. He's a 2-time amateur world champion. He has great knockout power. He's a guy that's very aggressive, heavy-handed. He's a relentless attack. He is a guy that has a chance to be a future star in boxing. He is the real deal. Let's shift over to Kyron Shut It Down Davis. Time and time again, this is a man that people have been trying to put up there to be a guy that, you know what, he's just going to be a guy that you have to go through, kind of be a buffering zone for some guys to have to fight against. But he's proven people wrong time and time again, and because of that, he's now in a position where he's 19-3-1, 6 KOs. He pulled off a massive upset last year, and now he's getting himself in this opportunity to go fight another guy that's one of the top up-and-coming prospects in all boxing. He is a very good guy. He's fought the names of David Benavidez. He's a smart boxer. He's very durable. He's strong, great counter puncher. He is a guy that his goal is to do exactly what he did last year when he pulled off an upset against Elijah Garcia. He's a guy that I think wants to go out there and prove people wrong. And here's the thing. He has proven people wrong so many times now where he has gotten himself into a strong position where the winner of this fight will likely be setting themselves up for a title eliminator or at least a fight that gets himself in position to be in position. This is a massive fight between these two guys. Two guys that are ranked within the top 15 of multiple organization bodies. Both guys that are very talented boxers. This, in my opinion, has a chance to be the fight of the weekend. It will be third up on the card for the card tomorrow night on Amazon with PBC. This is the possibly going to be the fight of the weekend. My apologies. Like I said, it's between this one or Beck versus Fulgham for this weekend to go watch. So, what's my prediction for this fight? You might say. I believe that I'm going to roll with Hernandez in this fight. His power should be able to wear down Kyron Davis. Now, I'm very skeptical about this. As I've said, Kyron Shut It Down Davis has been a guy that's proven people wrong over and over and over again. He is more experienced. He is more accustomed to big spotlight. He knows how to be in these situations. That could prove to be huge for him in this fight. Whereas Yolani Hernandez has not been in those situations yet. This is his number one opponent that he's ever fought in his career. He has not fought a guy that likes of Kyron Shutdown Davis yet. This could be a big wake-up test for Yolani Hernandez, but based upon what I see and what I feel like I'm going to have happen tomorrow night, I believe that we're going to see Yolani Hernandez pull off a late stoppage against Kyron Shutdown Davis. Two other fights I want to discuss before I wrap up the show. Isaac Lucero versus Omar Bennett Valenzuela, Super Welterweight Showdown. The unbeaten Isaac Lucero is 16-0 with 12 KOs, taking on another unbeaten guy, 23-0 with 20 KOs. Now, that is a little bit of an inflated record, just to put it out there. He's not fought quite the level of opposition, but neither has Lucero, to be honest. In my opinion, though, this could be a very interesting fight to have happen. I think we're going to see Lucero get the win. However, obviously, neither guy's experienced loss in their career. Tomorrow night will bring the first loss in the loss column for one of those two guys, unless it's a draw. What I believe is going to happen here is that Isaac Lucero will pull off the win, but Valenzuela could make a massive statement and shut down one of the up-and-coming prospects in boxing. The last thing I want to talk about in today's show, Kermel Moten versus Remy Villamonte. This is going to be an interesting fight. Not because of the fact that it's going to be competitive. I believe that we're going to see Kermel Moten get an easy win. He's 7-0 with 6 KOs. Kermel Moten has a chance to be one of America's next great boxing stars. He is one of the top prospects in America. Now, this is not a great fight. This is not going to be something that's very competitive. But what I'm looking to see is what's the flashes? How much has he improved since his last fight? What does Kermel Moten look like? And is he going to show more flashes of why he's going to be a future star in America? Because if he does just that, then we could be in for a treat tomorrow night. This is more to watch him. Should be able to take care of business quite easily and see how he performs in that situation. If it is a good performance from Kermel Moten, obviously he's going to continue to work his way up. There's many fights you could make for Kermel Moten going forward. But I think this is truly a guy that has the chance and potential to be one of the next great stars in American boxing. He's going to have to continue to prove that right and go out there and make a statement tomorrow night. That's what I've got for you guys in terms of the preview for that Caleb Plant Charlo fight card tomorrow night. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, though, because with that being said, there's no comments right now. I'm going to wrap today's show. So I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in to today's show. I hope you guys have an incredible rest of you guys Friday. Enjoy the weekend. May God bless you guys all. I will see you guys on Monday. I have early show now on Monday. As of right now, it should be 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time starting off. I'll have 2 interviews on Monday. I'll announce those on Sunday or Monday morning. But I hope you guys have a blessed rest of you guys weekend. May God bless you guys all. I'll see you guys on Monday. And SchuZ is out. See you guys on Monday.